So the legendary Shock Jock Don Imus has passed away at the age of 79 today. For those of you who are unaware of who Don Imus is, I would not blame you. This was a guy who was a provocateur back in the day, kind of along the lines of your Howard Stern or your Opie and Anthony. And one of one thing I remember the most about Mr. Imus was an event that happened in 2007 when he called a bunch of female basketball players nappy-headed hoes, and it sparked this huge uproar in the media, and they pretty much were nailing him on a cross, figuratively speaking. Reverend Al Sharpton was calling and demanding for his public apology and that he should be fired. And he actually did apologize about it. And even after that, Reverend Al Sharpton still said, I do not accept your apology. I think you should be fired. And eventually was fired. Same with his co-host. Now, I don't know if he ever got back on to radio. I think he may have. But what a lot of people don't realize is, aside from all that, he did a lot of charitable work, I believe, for kids that were ill and whatnot. And he raised a lot of money for their benefit. And it kind of put a damper on that, unfortunately, which was kind of disappointing. But I believe that this moment right here in time, in 2007, when he made those throwaway remarks without realizing what he was saying, is one of the beginning points of what we now know as cancel culture. And, it's gotten so blown out of proportion today where they will try to nail you for something that you said 10, 15, even 20 years ago. I mean, look at what happened with Brett Kavanaugh with stuff that he allegedly did when he was in high school, I believe it was. And now this guy is like, what, in his 40s or 50s? But I'm going to go ahead and play the clip. The infamous clip that is so burned into the mind of people that remember this one specific moment involving Don Imus. And I believe this is a very important part of history because I believe this specifically is one of the big beginning moments of when we got hit with, like I said, what is now known as cancel culture.
Girls from Rutgers, man, they got tattoos and
some hardcore hoes.
That's some nappy-headed hoes there. I'm gonna tell you that now. Man, that's some. Ooh. And the girls from Tennessee, they all look cute, So, like kind of like a, I don't know,
Spike Lee thing.
Yeah.
The Jigabos versus the Wannabes.
Yeah,
that movie that he had.
Yeah, it was a tough.
Do the right thing.
I don't know if I'd have wanted to beat Rutgers or not, but they did, right? On Friday, I apologized for some remarks that I made and others made, but particularly ones that I made on this program to the women's basketball team at Rutgers University. And it was a straightforward apology that Charles and I wrote, and I didn't I didn't think it was necessary to offer any excuse. No, I don't think there is now. I didn't think there was any need for me to put into any sort of context what happens on this program, because I unwisely just assumed that everybody knows, and obviously they don't. And I didn't think it was important to talk about what I do with my life, what my wife does with her life, and who I am, because I thought it was important that I apologize to these young women and to that coach and to their parents and to you for.
But that is, like I said, hopefully no one was actually offended by these remarks, because this is something that happened in history. And I believe that we also need to remember what has happened in history, because if we forget history, we are doomed to repeat it. Now, when he immediately, like shortly after he made these remarks, they did catch fire. It wasn't one of those things that happened years later. That's something that's been going on nowadays. But back then, like immediately after this happened, people were talking about it. And specifically, people like Opie and Anthony were defending him and his right to freedom of speech, because really, if you don't have the freedom of speech to say what you're willing to say and basically to express yourself, you're not really in a free nation, now are you? Now, yes, I know there's the whole freedom of speech, but it's not freedom of consequences, and he did suffer the consequences for them. And you also have to figure he was representing himself. This was live on air when it happened, and but it's interesting to think way back then, this was like 12 years ago, that this was happening even back then, but like at a much lesser extent. But yep, I didn't even realize he was still alive. I just got the notification that he passed away. But anyway, but I thought that was kind of interesting to talk about. So if anyone remembers Don Imus, leave a comment below. I'd like to hear anything that people remember about Mr. Imus and his shenanigans on radio. Anyways, that is it. So have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys later.